It all started with a simple photograph of two small girls and a boy being shown to me by my father in December 2016. The names of Archie, Florence, and Pearl were written on the back. But my father did not know who their parents were or how they fit into the Shaw family. Archie was born in 1889, Florence in 1892, and Pearl in 1894. My interest was piqued. Hello, I am Tom Shaw. Please join me in a journey as we discover our Shaw family history. Well, I remember my father talking about his father and grandfather. He never really talked about his great-grandfather, but he showed me a picture here of Edward W. Shaw and his wife, Nancy Shaw. Her maiden name was Beebe. Edward was the eldest son of John Palmer Shaw. John Palmer Shaw was born in the early 1800s in Pennsylvania and died there in 1860s or 70s. Edward and his younger brother John left Pennsylvania and first moved to Illinois. And after being in Illinois, they ended up in Humboldt County, Iowa. So here's a picture of my great-great-grandfather and mother, Edward W. Shaw and Nancy Beebe Shaw. This is my great-grandfather. His name was John Allen Shaw, and he was the eldest son of Edward and Nancy. John Allen married Emma McKittrick. John Allen died at a very early age. They only had one child, which is my grandfather, Everett Shaw. Dad continued to show me more and more family pictures, such as pictures of the brothers and sisters of his great-grandfather, John Allen. And in doing research, and I was finally able to identify Edward's father, John Palmer Shaw, and his wife, Mehetabel. They're both buried in Pennsylvania. Edward's younger brother, John S. Shaw, also left Pennsylvania, moved to Illinois, and then ended up here in Humboldt County. And it looks like they moved about the same time. It is interesting, though, that John S., while still in Illinois, the Civil War broke out. John enlisted in the Illinois 34th Volunteer Infantry, and he ended up serving the entire war. Enlistments were 3 years long. He did his 3 years, and he actually re-enlisted. One battle of note that's mentioned in his obituary is the Battle of Shiloh, a very famous battle, and John S. Shaw did fight there. I am constantly amazed as I do research what a rich history we Shaws have. Oh, and before I forget, Archie, Florence, and Pearl were the children of Samuel Shaw, Edward's son, and Hattie Shaw, John S.'s daughter. Yes, first cousins married. So you might ask, what is the point of this video? Well, I guess it's like this. Growing up, I only really knew about the Shaws, the little Shaw clan, coming from John Allen down to my grandfather Everett, and Everett's 3 children, my father, uncle, and aunt. We kind of thought we were secluded and sequestered. We didn't know there were Shaws anywhere else that we were related to. So as I started doing this research and I found out about John Allen's brothers and sisters and how a couple of sisters married and remained here in Iowa. Most of the brothers moved on, and they moved to different parts of the country. It was amazing to make connections with their descendants. They were just as amazed as I was, I think, at times, especially when they got a phone call from some guy named Tom in Iowa and telling them that they're a Shaw and that we might be related. I heard a little bit of skepticism in the background sometime on those phone calls. But I've been able to make connections with about 30 to 32 Shaws across the country, all descendants of John Palmer Shaw and mostly all of Edward W. Shaw. What I've done is I've tried to compile all of the history that I could find together and organize it as best I could. What you see here is all of the folders here. I have Shaw John P. being John Palmer Shaw. He is generation 04. I left generations 1, 2, and 3 blank because we may eventually find out who John Palmer's parents were and who their parents were and their parents were. And if I do that, I don't have to renumber all of the folders and everything. So we start at generation 4 of John Palmer Shaw, and you open that folder up, and you'll find this in every folder, I believe. The first document you should see would be a 1 dash and then Shaw, comma, John P. Family History. And I can open that document up, and many of you have seen these documents, but maybe you haven't seen all of them. But what I've tried to do is write their life history on here and not just record names, dates, and places lived, but actually talk about their life and their children. So we go up here to the main folder, and then you will see I have his children, Edward Shaw, John, Shaw Betsy, Shaw Thomas, Shaw Mary, Shaw Lucy, Shaw James, Shaw Abigail, Shaw Sarah, Shaw Charlotte. The only two that we're really familiar with so far is Edward and John. As far as I can tell, the other two brothers remained in Pennsylvania. I do know they inherited the farm from John Palmer, and I am not sure about where all of Edward and John's sisters ended up. Until I can find out their marriages and who they married, they're very hard to trace because obviously their last name changed when they got married. So we can go into Edward and Nancy folder, and you'll see at the top, then I have Edward and Nancy's children broken down into separate folders. There's John Allen, Samuel, Susan, George, Charles, Sarah, David, and William Delbert. And again, you go to the 1 dash, Edward W. Shaw Family History. You open it up, and again, here's the best of their life story that I could assemble together. Even have some little clips from the local newspaper. So then also included in this folder of Edward W. Shaw is all of the supporting documents, such as the photos, Edward's obituary, Nancy's obituary, transcripts of census reports, just all kinds of different documents that you could find. And click up here on Samuel and Hattie, and you will see Pearl, Archie, and Florence. So again, within each family, their children, I broke down the folders. And here's Samuel Sterling Shaw, family history, and all of the different supporting documents. Some of them have pictures of their headstones, tombstones. Some of them have their World War I or World War II draft registration cards. With John S. Shaw, there's actually a copy of his membership in the Grand Army of the Republic. So where does this all lead? Well, I guess I'm trying to ask everyone that's on the distribution list, everyone that sees these videos, to please give me a hand in identifying more of the Shaws. As you can see, I'm trying to go horizontally across the family tree, not specifically up. I've stopped at John Palmer Shaw, but I want to fill in across the family tree. And where I need help with, well, let me see here. Let's take William Delbert Shaw, for example. William Delbert and his wife had 4 children. William Delbert left Iowa, moved to Montana, and from Montana moved up into Canada, and then at some point moved from Canada back into Washington State. There's one son that is unaccounted for. That son is Leonard. I just don't have any information on Leonard. I have found a Leonard Shaw that's buried in Canada, and it looked like he served in the Canadian Royal Air Force. There's no wife tombstone or wife listing with his grave marker. So if anyone would know the whereabouts or what happened with Leonard Earl Shaw, did he marry, did he not marry, did he have children, where he might be buried, where he lived, this is just one of the examples. So as you go through these folders and you read the family histories, if you see things are blank, please help provide the information to me. I've gotten things pretty complete down, 2 or 3 generations down from John Palmer Shaw. It's kind of my father's generation, now next down to my generation, where I start losing the information because obviously we've moved all across the country. We are so spread out. If you're not interested yourself strongly in family history, I understand that, but usually in every family there's one family historian. If you could please contact them and have them get a hold of me. My email address is tomshawiowa@gmail.com. That's TOMSHAWIOWA@gmail.com. Please have them contact me so we can work on filling in this information. Talk to your brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever you can let's try to get this information documented and recorded. This isn't just for us. Just think about 5 generations from us, 3 or 4 generations from us, our children's children and their children and their children. Wouldn't it be a great gift to be able to hand to them the complete history of the Shaw family? So if you like this video, please hit like, hit the subscribe button, and please leave a comment. Until next time, this is Tom signing off.